Yeah, we'll wait. So 5 more minutes, then we'll wait.
Recording in progress.
So I hope EOQ calculation is clear for all. So in continuation to economic order quantity, we will also discuss how to calculate the total annual inventory cost. Now, generally, the total annual inventory cost is equal to the total purchase cost plus ordering cost plus holding cost. So here you can see uh, purchase cost and ordering cost and holding cost. If you add all these, then we'll be getting the total annual inventory cost. Yeah. So when buffer inventory is held, holding cost become. Now, any idea about buffer inventory? Hello, am I audible? Yes. Yes, very good. Yeah, the stock which is generally used in case of meeting the emergency is known as buffer inventory. So generally in this case, first we should calculate the economic order quantity ignoring the discount. And if this is below the level of level for discount, calculate the total annual inventory cost. Then recalculate the total annual inventory cost using the order size required to just obtain the discount. Then compare the cost of step and two. It means that yeah. So here whenever you are going with the annual inventory cost and a discount in the sense, as I mentioned earlier, the supplier might provide a certain discount if you purchase the goods in bulk. Suppose, let me give an example. Your EOQ is, let us assume that 10,000 units. It means whenever you place a new order, you need to place it for 10,000 units. And supplier gave a discount. Suppose if you make an order of more than 20,000, he will be giving a discount of, let us assume that 2%. Now, in this case, we need to make the decision. So whether we need to go with the discount or whether we need to stick with the EOQ. So in that particular situation, so first, ignoring the discount, first we need to calculate the economic order quantity. That should be the step one. And if this is below the level for discount, it means that if the EOQ, let us assume that, as I mentioned, the supplier is providing the discount if you order at least 10,000 units. It means that in order to avail the discount, you need to make a minimum order of 10,000 units. But if your EOQ is only 8,000 units, it means you need to make a order of 8,000 in order to minimize the cost of capital. So if this is below the level of discount, calculate the total annual inventory cost. It means by considering that particular EOQ, we need to calculate the total annual inventory cost. I already mentioned the formula for that. That is purchase cost plus ordering cost plus holding cost. Then recalculate the total annual inventory cost using the order size required to just obtain the discount. So as I mentioned, if you want to avail the discount, you need to make an order of 10,000 units. Now again, you should calculate the inventory cost by considering the 10,000 units. So in step 2, what we did, we calculated the inventory cost by considering EOQ. Step 3, we should calculate the total inventory cost by considering the minimum order which we should place in order to avail the discount. Then compare the cost of step 2 and step 3 with the saving from the discount and select the minimum cost alternative. It means that now we need to compare the total inventory cost by considering the EOQ and the total inventory cost by considering the minimum order for getting the discount. In these two, whichever is less, that should be considered as that should be the appropriate option for it. So, and in some cases, it is possible that the supplier might offer different discount levels. It means if you purchase 10,000 units, he may provide a discount of 2%. Or if you purchase 3,000 units, 15,000 units, he might give a discount of 3%. So like this complete discount levels we need to go. It means just like it is a trial and error method. So simple step is step number 1, calculate the EOQ. Step 2, calculate the total inventory cost by considering the EOQ. And then different orders are to be considered and accordingly we need to go with the calculation. So shall we see a small illustration related to this? Just 1 second, I will be showing a small illustration. Just 1 second. Just please 1 second. Plot go. Yeah, can you see my screen? You can't see my screen? Hello.
We can see, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, just carefully let me. So multiple factors are there, but we'll be focusing only on the inventory part. Okay. Yeah. So Frantic has a budget production. Frantic has a budget production of 800 cars for the year. The most expensive bought-in components for the cars are engines. Now, generally, the major raw material for this car is engine. Now, other components are either made in-house or minor items which are bought in but which do not require any special inventory management. Excluding the engines, Other components, generally other components are some manufactured within the organization, and some other minor elements are bought in from and for those components, it is not required to have a specific inventory management because their cost is very less. But the most expensive material for this is engines. Okay. Now, engine purchase price are subject to quantity discounts according to the following schedule. Now, at what price the supplier will be supplying the material, it generally depends upon the quantity order. Now, here you can see order quantity. Now, here you can see order quantity 0 to 49 units, then no percent of discount. Discount is not offered. And if you make an order of 50 to 249 units, then we will be getting 2% discount. And if you make an order of more than 249 units, we will be getting 3% discount. Now they also gave other details that engine price before discount. So before considering the discount, the price of the engine is $1,300. And inventory holding cost per annum as a percentage of engine cost is 22%. And delivery cost per order is 1200. Okay, so I hope you might have understood the basic information regarding this. The company is a car manufacturing company, and whatever material which they purchase, engine is most costly. Normally, the engine of the car will be more costly, and there are other components for which a specific inventory management is not required. Now, when it comes to the engine, actually the cost of engine without discounting is 1300, and supplier provides certain discount also. Suppose if you order for 49 units, up to 49 units, supplier won't give any discount. And if your order is between 50 to 249 units, we can expect 2% discount. And if you are making an order of more than 249 units, we'll be getting a discount of 3%. And they gave the holding cost and they gave the delivery cost. Right? Now, can anyone let me know what will be the economic order quantity? And here annual production, how many cars they are manufacturing every year? Annual production of the car 800. Okay. So Francine has a budget production of 800. Now I am disabling the answer script. So can I expect someone to calculate the EOQ? Annual consumption is 800. Then ordering cost is 1200. And inventory holding cost is 22%. And the price of the engine is 1300. So I want you to calculate the economic order quantity. I hope you can easily do that. So just I will be giving some time, 5 minutes time I will be giving. So please calculate the EOQ. After that, we'll proceed with the test. Can I get any confirmation from the participants that you are trying to calculate EOQ? Thank you very much, Naina, for confirming. Jerome already says again, says answer 67.93. We'll see. I appreciate for the speedy response. Very good. We'll see. I request other participants also to please try. 81.93. Okay, different answers. And even I am also very much interested to see the answer. Even Naina got the same answer, 81.93. Devardhini also. Okay, I appreciate the efforts of the participants. Very good. Let me show what is the EVOC. Approximately 82.77. Here you can see. Sorry, sir. Not just EVOC. So we got 81.93. I hope most of you might have got this answer. Just once cross verify, I think it might be only a calculation mistake. I think, because I think you might have applied everything correct. Only calculation mistake, I think. Right? Yeah. So annual consumption of material 800 is given, ordering cost 1200, and annual inventory cost, holding cost is also given. Okay, no issue, no problem. Yeah. So I believe this EVOQ calculation is clear for all. So we got 81.93 and got 82 as our EVOQ. Now let me split my screen. Now in the question it is mentioned that suppose if your order is between 500 to 249 units. Now as per EVOQ it states that you need to make a minimum order of 82. You need to make a minimum order of 82 units. So as per the question, if your order is between 50 to 249 units, your supplier is giving 2% as discount. Okay, your supplier is giving 2% as discount. So at this batch ordering level, a quantity discount of 2% would apply. So in that case, because we are getting 2% discount, so the annual holding cost would therefore be 22% into 98%. It means actually how we calculated the holding cost on the price of the engine. The price of the engine is 1300 into 22%. But your EVOQ gives you a discount of 2%. Now we need to recalculate the holding cost. Right? We need to recalculate the holding cost. Instead of calculating the holding cost of 22% on 1300, now we need to deduct this 2% discount, and on that we should calculate 22 days. And again we need to recalculate the EVOQ. I hope you might have understood what I'm trying to say. Is that clear? Actually our EVOQ was 2%, sorry, 81.93 or something, yeah, 81.93 or 82 units. So you qualify for a discount of 2%. Now because you are availing a discount, again you need to recalculate the holding cost, and when you recalculate the holding cost, then instead of 286, the holding cost is now only 280.2. So your EVOQ, the amended EVOQ will be 83, 82.77, nothing but 83 units. So before I go with the further step, so let me know if you have any query on this. So take your time, no urgency, but I want everyone to confirm it, whether you understood these two steps. Yeah, why we are taking 98% means here, if you're ordering between 50 to 249, we are getting a discount on ordering cost. Sorry, we are getting a discount of 2%, right? Now, generally, in order to calculate the holding cost, how we calculated the holding cost? 1300 into 22%, right? But your order qualifies a discount of 2%. It means that we cannot take 1300 as price of the machine. we need to deduct 2% discount in this. So 1300 minus 2% discount. On that, we will be calculating 22. So simply 2% discount is nothing but 1300 into 98%, and on that 22%. Is that clear, or you want me to put it in Excel sheet, Srivardhani? Okay, done. Yeah. Any other queries on these two EOQ calculations? Yeah. Now, finally, we concluded that it is advisable to make an order of 83 units. So, whenever you make a new order it for 83 engines. Now, we need to calculate the total cost. It means total inventory cost. So, if you can remember, I already showed the formula of inventory cost. No. Here, 2% discount on 1390. Okay, let me show you. Let me open my Excel. Now, actually, in the first EOQ, the first part, how we calculated the holding cost. The holding cost is nothing but the price of engine. So price of engine, they gave it as 1300, and holding percentage, they gave it as I believe 22%, right? So this was the thing. But because we got our EOQ is between, how much we got it as EOQ? So here we got EOQ as 81.9. So if your EOQ, if you are ordering around 82 units every year, I think about 82 units whenever you make an order, you qualify for a discount of 2%. So because you qualify for a discount of 2%, then instead of 1300, now we need to take our price of engine, that is 1300 less discount. So what is the discount? 2%. So 1300 into 2%. So after deducting the discount, what is the final price? 1300 minus 26. So it is 1274. Now on 1274, we need to calculate the holding cost. That is 1274 into 22%. So it is 280.28. I hope now you understood. Is it clear? Now what should be the next step? We should calculate the total inventory cost. So how we will be calculating the total inventory cost? First, total purchase cost. So the total purchase cost is the price of the machine. Price of the machine is how much? 1300. So, but we need to take the discounted figure. It means that, see, if you are confusing the 1300 into 98%, you can calculate this one. Your price of the price of the machine is 1274. So 1274 so how we got 1274? 1300 minus 2% Okay, so the total, and this is how much? So it means that 1274 into how many engines we are purchasing? 800. So 1274 into 800, our total purchase cost will be 1019,200. I hope the total purchase cost is clear for all. Is this clear? Yes. So the total engines which we are purchasing, the total engines which we require every year is 800. And at what price we are getting? 1274. Actually, it is 1300. But because we are getting a discount of 2%, so we should be only 1274. So 1274 into 800, then it will be 1019,200. Okay. Then the holding cost. Always do remember what is the formula for total inventory cost? First, purchase cost. Then after purchase cost, next should be holding cost. So how to calculate the holding cost? This is very, very, very important. Okay. Now, in order to calculate this holding cost, our EOQ. So we got a new EOQ of 83, right? 83, and always do remember we should consider the average inventory. So 83 divided by 2 into, I hope you might have understood. Is that clear? Once again, I repeat, holding cost. Now, holding cost is they gave it as 22%. Now we should calculate the annual holding cost. Okay. So how to calculate the annual holding cost? Now here how much we got? The holding cost as 280.28, right? And this 280.28 is for per unit. So 280.28 into the average value. So 83 is our EOQ into 2. So that will be our holding cost. Or the formula is if you are finding difficulty, the simple formula is EOQ divided by 2 into the holding cost. So we got a holding cost of 280.28. So here we got it as 280.28. You can see that. So 280.28 into EOQ divided by 2, 83 divided by 2. So the total holding cost will be 11,632. And then we need to calculate the ordering cost. Now, how we need to calculate ordering? What is the total annual consumption? 800. And whenever you are making a new order, how many units you are placing? 83. So 800 divided by 83, and whenever you make a new order, the ordering cost is 1200. Here you can see this. So 800 divided by 3 into 200, we got 11,566. So the total inventory cost will be 104239. So let me know if you have any query on this total inventory cost calculation by considering. Any question? If you are confusing means I can put it in Excel sheet also. Your wish. You want me to explain Excel? Okay. Now let me explain the holding cost one. Now here we are calculating the annual holding cost. So the formula for calculating on annual holding cost is economic order quantity divided by 2 into holding cost per unit. So we already calculated the holding cost per unit, that is 28.28. And we got an economic order quantity of 83. So here you can see our EOQ is 83. So 83 divided by 2 into holding cost per unit, that is 28.28. Then our answer is 11,630. Okay. It means in general, how we need to understand is holding, what exactly holding cost means. What is the cost incurred by the company to store the material and other expenses relating to the material. So in the question it is mentioned that the company would incur a inventory holding cost per annum would be approximately 22% of the price of the engine. Now, if the price of the engine is 1300, on that 22% will be the holding cost. So here what will be the annual holding cost? Now, in this annual holding cost, we need to generally assume that we should take the average EOQ. Now, normally, whenever you are placing a new order, you are placing order for 83 units. You need to make an order for 83 units. So, in order to calculate the holding cost, we need to take average of that. So, EOQ, economic order quantity divided by 2, that is nothing but average. So, into holding cost per unit, that is 280.28. So, if you multiply these two, we will be getting a holding cost of 11,630. I hope it is clear now. Yes. So, shall I continue? Then evaluation of an order by quantity of 250. Now here they mention that if you order for more than 250 units, whenever you are making an order, if you order for at least more than 249 units, nothing but 250 units, then we can get a discount of 3%. Now if you want to avail the 3% discount by ordering 250 units, now we need to calculate the total inventory cost. So same process should be applied. So for calculating order, first the purchase cost. So purchase cost here, actually the price of the engine is 1300, but if you are ordering more than 249 units, how much discount they are giving? 3%. So same 1300 into 97% into, and cost of each machine is 800. So this is the value of the purchases. Then again you should calculate the holding cost. How many units you are ordering? 250. So how we will get average? 250 divided by 2 into, again we should calculate the holding cost. Actually holding cost is how much? 22%, right? So 22% into 97% into 1300. So if you find difficult, like this also we can calculate. The holding cost is equal to first adjusted price. So what is the adjusted price? Actually the cost of machine is 1300, but if, because you are ordering for more than 250 units, will get 3% discount. So the adjusted price is how much? 1261. So our holding cost will be 250 divided by 2 into 22%, right? So 1261 into 22%. So our total holding cost will be 34,677. So here you can see our total holding cost will be 34,670. Okay. See, if you find difficulty in understanding this, so here I calculated the process of holding. Here you can see this. Is that clear? Yes. So holding cost, we got it as 37,688, and again ordering cost, how many orders we are making? Sorry, how many units per order we are making? 250. So 800 divided by 250 into ordering cost 1200. So the total inventory cost, if you make a minimum order of 250, the total inventory cost will be 10,47,318. But if you follow the EOQ, now EOQ says that you need to make an order of 83 units only. So if you, whenever you are making an order, if you order for 83 units, you are going to incur a total annual cost of 10,42,398. But in order to avail a high discount of 3%, if you make an order of 250 units per order, then you are going to incur a total annual cost of 10,47,380. So which one you prefer? Will you go with EvoQ or will you prefer to order 250 units for availing maximum discount? Here you can compare the total inventory cost with EvoQ and with maximum discount. So which one you suggest? Yes. So always we go with minimum cost only, right? It means if you are ordering for 83 units, you are going to incur a total annual cost of 10,42,398. But instead of EvoQ, if you make an order of 250 units per order, you are going to incur a total annual cost of 10,47,000. So it means it is more. If you order 250 units, you are going to incur an excess and inventory cost of 4,920. So that's why it is always suggested to go with the economic order quantity. It means you need to make an order of 83 units whenever you place an order. So I want participants to respond whether you understood it or did you found any difficulty. So whatever point which you found difficult, let me know. I will explain it one time. Yes. Hello. Am I audible? Hello. Yes. Mohammed, Naina, and others. I'm expecting you to respond. Okay. So these were the steps which were mentioned. So I hope these steps now you understood. Okay. So any question? So definitely this EOQ is definitely you will be getting this question, especially the process, the method which we just saw. So it will be part of a 20 marks question. So shall I assume that you clearly understood the concept? Now shall I give one illustration? Will you try? Will you try? Shall I give an illustration? Okay. Annual consumption is 1200 units. Price per unit 2000. Order cost 500. Holding cost 18%. And order quantity and discount. Suppose if the order quantity is less than 70 units, then 0% discount. If it is 71, 350, then we can claim a discount of 3%. And if it is more than 350, then we can claim a discount of 4%, sorry, 5%. Now I want what should be the option? Should the company go with EOQ? It means which one will be suitable? Okay, so I will be giving 15 minutes time. I want the participants. See, once again, I repeat, try to understand the importance of this. What is this problem? Definitely, we will be getting this as a 20 marks, part of 20 marks question, and even we can expect a conceptual based, sorry, scenario based MCQs also. Okay, so just I gave the information. So I request the participants to please write. Can I get confirmation from the participants that you started working? Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. EOQ 57.73. Is it first EOQ or adjusted EOQ now? Okay. Yeah. 57.7. So 57.73 means I believe now it means that you are not going to get any discount, right? Because if your order quantity is less than 70, then you will be getting 0% discount. Now, in this case, no need to calculate any adjusted EOQ. I hope you got my point. Because if your order quantity, here you got EOQ as 57.73, but as per the requirement, if your order is less than 70 units, then you won't be getting any discount. So there will not be any adjusted EOQ. Now, in this case, what should be the next step? What should be the next step? I hope all might have got same answer, 57.73 as EOQ. Okay. Now, yes. So because no need to calculate adjusted EOQ. The reason is it is below 70. If you want to avail the discount, if your EOQ would have got me more than 70, or if the EOQ is more than 70, then only we would have got discount of 3%. But here it is less than 70, so that's why no need to calculate adjusted EOQ. So you're done with the step 1, that is calculating the EOQ. Now the step 2 is calculate the total inventory cost at EOQ. So by considering EOQ of 57.73 means you can take it as 58. Okay. So you can consider it as 58. So by considering this 58 as your EOQ, you calculate the total inventory cost. So please do that. What will be the total inventory cost? So to calculate inventory cost, we need three: purchase cost, holding cost, and ordering. So what is the purchase cost? Anyone? I hope you might be knowing how to calculate purchase cost, right? So What will be the purchase cost now? Yes. 2 lakh 40, 24 lakhs, right? See what the, let me see. Total annual consumption is 1200 into price per. So purchase cost will be 24 lakhs. And what about the next component? Holding cost. 10,440. Let me calculate this. So we got an EOQ of 58, right? So 58 divided by 2 into what is the holding cost here? Price per unit is 2000 into 18%. Very good. 10,440. Then ordering cost. 10,375. Let me calculate this. Annual consumption 1200 divided by EOQ 58 into ordering cost is, yeah, 10,345. Very good. So the total inventory cost, I hope it is clear for all. Yes. 2,42,000, sorry, 24,20,787. This is our total inventory cost. Now, what should be the next step? Because two options are, if you order for more than 71 units, if you order at least 71 for 350, you will be getting 3% discount. And if you order for more than 350, then you will be getting 5% discount. Now, what should be the next step now? Yes, Devardhani, there is Naina, Jerome, others, please. What do you think? What should be the next step? Calculate for 71 to 350 order quantity. Yeah. Now, in this case, step 3 should be take it as 71. Yeah, very good. Now, here you need to calculate the total total inventory cost at 71. It means now you need to consider 71 units. So by considering 71 units, calculate the total inventory cost. So now what will be the purchase cost? Again, same purchase, holding, and the total. Yes, can anyone let me know what will be the purchase cost now? It is 23 lakhs 28,000. Okay. So the purchase cost should be annual consumption is 1200 into here the price per unit is 2000, but we will be getting a discount of 3%, right? So 2000. I hope it is clear, because actually the price per unit is 2000, but if you order 71 units, you will be getting a discount of 3%. So the purchase cost would be 23 lakhs 28,000. Then what will be the holding cost? $12,387. Let me do this. Into holding cost is, I think I must have forgot a bracket. Very good. Then ordering cost. What will be the ordering cost? $8,451. Oh, so we got 23 lakhs 48,847. This is the total inventory cost if you order at 71 units. Okay. Then what should be the next step? Step 3. Yes. Compare which is better. No, we not yet completed, because more than 350 they are giving a percentage of 5%. If you order more than 350 units. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So it is 351 units. Okay. Now again you should calculate the purchase cost. So what is the purchase cost now? What will be the purchase cost? Yes, 2,28,000. Then holding cost. what will be the holding cost now? $60,021, very good. Then ordering cost 1079.4. So yeah, so the total inventory cost is 23,41,007. Now in these three, which one would be better? Because if you go with the EvoQ, it is 24 lakhs 20,000, and if you go with 3% discount, it is 23 lakh 48,847, and if you go with 5% discount, then it is 23 lakh 41,007. So it is recommended to go with 5% discount. So it means that, yeah, 3,510 units. Yeah, 351 units, right. If you can place an order of at least 351 units, then it would be better for the company so that they can minimize the inventory. So this is the complete concept of inventory management. So this is the exact standard of question you will be expecting in the. And at least you can expect minimum 8 to 10 marks for this. So I hope all the participants are clear with this calculation. Why only almost 9? Huh? Why not 100% clear? Yes, can I know? Next is just in time. This is a small concept. I hope you can easily understand. Now, just in time says that. Okay, yeah, yes, I agree that. Now, generally, just in time means whenever the requirement is there, only at that time. Here you can see. So, as per just in time inventory management, an alternative view of inventory management is the reduction or elimination of inventory, since inventory is seen as waste. So, it means as per the concept of just in time, always they try to focus on minimizing the stock levels in the company. So the aim of just in time are a smooth flow of work through the manufacturing plant, a flexible production process which is response to the customer's requirement. It means as per the requirement of the customer, the manufacturing as well as the purchasing of stock will be done, and reduction in capital tied up in the inventory. I already mentioned that just in time mainly focus that inventory level should be minimized. So because they believe, as per the concept of just in time, it clearly says that a significant amount of capital can be minimized. It means that unless tied up in the inventory will be minimized. So in order to obtain this, batch sizes are reduced and raw material inventory is delivered to point of use. Then process. Now raw material is delivered to point of use means, actually previous concept we discussed that first the purchase department will purchase the raw material and it will be sent to the stores department. Then stores department will store it for certain time, and again from the stores department it goes to the production department. This is the process. But what just in time says is, instead of this process, directly raw material will be sent to the production department. So unnecessarily the holding period will not be there. I hope you understood my point, right? Then processes are designed to allow just in time and also quality to be maximized. So even the process, the production process is also designed in such a way that it goes with the just in time concept. And as per just in time, the finished goods are manufactured on the basis of order. So first the order should be received, then only the finished goods are manufactured. So the suppliers need to have high level of quality and reliability. And in order to see, in this case, suppliers need to have high level of quality and reliability, build a long-term trusting relationship, and be physically close. It means whoever supplies the raw material, they need to be very physically close in the sense, very near to the production plant. Then the company should have a long relationship with the supplier and even high level of quality and reliability. So this is about just in time. So just for 1 minute, go through this. If you didn't understand any specific point, let me know. Any question? Yeah. So I hope I can continue now. Okay. So accounts payable and accounts receivable. So this payable and receivable is another important concept of our inventory, working capital management. And I hope most of you might be aware about accounts receivable. So first we'll focus on accounts receivable. Now, generally, if a company want to maximize the profit, in the process of maximizing the profit, they prefer to sell the goods on credit basis. Now, especially here, we need to keep in mind that we are discussing from the company which mainly involved in the producer goods manufacturing. And yesterday, I clearly explained the meaning of this producer goods. So the company with an intention to maximize the profit, they might sell the goods on credit basis and they will allow certain credit period to the customers to repay the amount, and collecting the amount from the customers is considered as one of the most challenging tasks for the company. Now in this need to balance the improved sale and profit against the cost of allowing the credit. So it means that a balance should be achieved. It means that both liquidity and the profitability balance should be achieved. And generally, the factors influence the credit policies. So on what basis the credit policies will generally design? Demand for the product, then risk of irrevocable debts, financing cost. Now here financing cost means generally if you want any fund to meet the day-to-day operations, at what cost you can procure it, or simply at what cost you can raise your short-term borrowings. That is financing cost. And industry norms and the competitor terms, Then cost of credit control. The cost of credit control means if you're selling the goods on credit basis means you need a separate department to monitor that. So how much you are expecting to incur to manage that particular credit department? That is known as cost of credit control. So here you need to mainly remember the major factors which affects the credit policies are demand for the product, risk of irrevocable debt, financing cost, industry norms and competitor terms, and cost of credit control. Now, assessing the credit worthiness. Now, here it is very much important that a company need to assess the credit worthiness. Now, let me ask a question. Is it preferable that the task of the task of assessing the credit worthiness of the customer to be given to the sales department, or it should be done by a separate department? Now, generally, sales department will sell the goods, right? Now, can we consider that sales department should assess the credit worthiness? Separate department. So, Srivardhani thinks separate department. Yes, perfectly correct. Because if you give this task to the sales department, definitely they may not be expertise to assess the credit worthiness, and in addition to that, they might involve themselves in a fraudulent activity to maximize the sales. It means without proper scrutiny of the credit profile of the customer, they might sell the goods. So that's why it is always recommended to have a separate credit department. So the credit worthiness of the company should be assessed by the credit department. So assessing the customer's credit risk, companies need to assess the credit worthiness of all the customers and new customers immediately and all the customers periodically. Suppose if the customer is new, immediately credit worthiness should be assessed without before making any sales. And if the customers are repeated customers, nothing but old customers, it is always advisable. It means that periodically credit worthiness should be assessed. Suppose let us assume the previous year credit worthiness of the customer might be viable, but there might be some issue with the credit worthiness in the current year. So that's why it is always recommended to have a repeated scrutiny of the credit worthiness of the customer. And sources of information. Now, generally, how we can assess the credit worthiness? The best source is bank. Now, can anyone let me know how we can consider bank as a source? Will the banker says that customer credit is good or bad? Yes. Sufficient balance in his account. Yes. And as Jerome said, timely payment of interest. Very good. I appreciate the participants for your response. Very good. As you rightly mentioned, we can check the bank balance and capability to repay the loan. Perfect. See, generally, if you ask the bank statement, by referring the bank statement of the customer, you can see what will be the balance and how he is paying the payments. And more interestingly, we can also find the check bounce cases. Suppose generally when will be the check bounce will occur if sufficient balance is not given. Just give me 1 second. 1 second. Your Kiran sir is called. Yeah. So here by seeing the bank statement, we can see the check bounce case. Normally when the check will be bounced, if the sufficient balance is not there. So that's why bank is considered as the best source for assessing the credit worthiness. And the trade references. Now trade references means you can ask the other parties who are previously connected with the customer. So and the published information. Now, published information means if your client is involved in any significant credit risk, and if your client is a listed company, then definitely this information will be published. So that can also be considered credit agencies. Now, this is very interesting. I hope most of you might be aware about CIBIL, CIBIL. Do anyone heard about this? Very good. Yeah, CIBIL score. Yes. Very good. Now, normally, the financial institutions, in order to lend a loan, yeah, excellent. I appreciate for your knowledge. See, the financial institutions, in order to lend a loan to the banker, to the individual, they will mainly focus on the CIBIL score. Even credit cards will also be issued on the basis of CIBIL score. Always it is preferred to have a minimum CIBIL score of 750. If it is less than 750 means generally the customer credit worthiness is not appropriate. Now, in the same way, for corporations, nothing but for corporates or for companies, we will be having credit rating agencies. So, the best credit rating agency which we can consider is CRISIL. Now, this credit rating agency will be giving certain credit rating. Suppose credit ratings are denominated like AAA, AA, or AAA plus plus, like this certain credit ratings are. So on the basis of this credit rating, we can assess the credit worthiness of the customer. And if the customers are old customers, by seeing their previous transactions, we can assess their credit worthiness. Nothing but company's own sales record. I hope it is clear. Is it clear? So the control credit limits set limits for both the amount of credit offered and time taken to repay. So credit department need to make the credit limits. It means how much credit can be given to a customer and how much period can be given. Whether 30 days. See, most of the companies will go with a differential credit scheme. Differential credit scheme means as per the credit profile of the customer, they will be deciding the amount of credit should be given and even the credit period. Whether credit period should be 30 days or 40 days, it completely depends upon the credit profile of the customer. And it is important to monitor the orders as well as invoice sales before extending the credit period. And invoice promptly and collect overdue debt. This is very, very important. So an effective, it means invoice properly means whenever the sales is done, without much time, a invoice should be raised and collect overdue debt. It means a frequent reminder should be sent and a proper step should be followed to collect the overdue debt. Suppose if your credit collection department is not effective, then definitely the company will be under severe financial challenges. Okay, so any query on this? Please let me know if you have any question. Yes, please. Now here you can see the follow procedure. Now generally what should be the follow procedure? Very, very interesting. Just see this. The longer a debt is overdue, the greater the risk of default. Suppose let us assume that you gave 30 days credit period to your customer, and after 30 days also you didn't receive the payment from your customer. So the longer the overdue, the greater the risk of default. So in that case, what should be the follow procedure? First, a reminder letter should be sent, and do remember, reminder letter should not be harsh. You should not threaten the customer. Initially, the reminder letter should be soft spoken. Do remember, this is very, very important point. Then after, if the customer didn't respond to the reminder letter properly, then you should go with telephone call. So in the telephone calls also, it should not be harsh. And if that fellow didn't respond with the telephone call also, now you can withhold the supplies. It means you should stop the current requires of supply. So whatever the current supplies are, you need to stop it. Then after that also, if you are not getting response, then you need to involve the debt collectors to collect the amount. And after initiation with the debt collectors, if you didn't get the payment, then you don't have any other option. You should go with the legal action. So these are the follow-up procedures, and I don't think you have any query on this. Is that clear? Yes. Yeah. So monitoring the credit system. Now this is an essential part of working capital management. Now generally in this it take corrective action when age analysis when required. Now generally how we can monitor is age analysis, ratios, statistical data. Now age analysis means first we need to we need to identify the aged receivables. Now generally we assume that if a specific credit is overdue, if a specific amount is overdue for more than 90 days, we generally consider it as aged receivable. Once again, I repeat, if it is overdue for more than 90 days, we assume it as aged receivable. Okay. Then, so aged receivables is one of the monitoring the credit rating, credit system. Then ratios. So we can consider the ratios, especially the ratios like debt collection period, and we can also consider certain important ratios of the customers like interest coverage ratio and even the gearing ratio, nothing but debt equity ratio. And we can also depend upon other statistical data to monitor the credit system. Okay. So is that clear? So next, how much discount should be given to the customers? So on what basis it should be calculated? So I prefer to continue this in the next session because I can observe that most of the students are already exhausted. So I will be doing this in the next session. And if you have any query in the current session, let me know. And I hope you might have going through the videos also, the uploaded videos, or still busy with your assignment. Yes. Yeah. So any query in the today's session? Yeah, you can ask James. No issue. One second. Yeah, this one, right? Employee stock option plan. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, sure, definitely I will use that. So if a company issues large quantities of share options, there could be some risk of excessive dilution of equity interest of the existing shareholders. Now, as a result, it has been suggested that the company should recognize the cost of share option to their shareholders by making some form of charge for option in the statement of profit and loss. Yeah, very good point. Right? Now let me suppose. Now, generally, the main objective of ESOP is to minimize the conflict between the shareholders as well as the managers. In order to encourage the managers to achieve the organizational objective, this will be issued. But the problem is if a company issues a large quantity of these share options. So in this case, there could be some risk of excessive dilution of equity interest. Now, it means that let us assume that uh, suppose before giving this employee stock option plan, the total number of shareholders in the company is 10,000. And the company earning available to shareholders is, let us assume that 1 lakh. So earning available to shareholders was 1 lakh and the company total shareholders are 10,000. Now, if you divide 1 lakh by 10,000, every shareholder got $10 as earning per share. So the earning per share is $10. But because of excess issue of this employee stock option, it means that these are the shares which are issued freely as part of, it means that these are the shares which are issued as part of their remuneration. Now, once the company decided to issue the shares to the executive director, and let us assume that because of this extra issue, now the total shares instead of 10,000, now it increased to 15,000. Now, when it was 10,000, each shareholder earning was $10. Now, because now it is 15, now if you divide 1 lakh or let me take 20 so that it will be easy for calculating. Now, if you divide 1 lakh divided by 20, how much earning on share? 5. So, before ESOP, the earning per shareholder is $10. And because of issuing the share options to the shareholder, now the EPS has been decreased from 10 to 5. Now, it will be a great dilution in the earning per share. Now, because of this particular dilution, the first important thing is the shareholders, the existing, actually, whoever the actual investors are there, they might show disinterest in the company. And in the stock market also, if they go for disposal of the shares, it will definitely affect the share price in the stock market. We can observe a drastic decrease in the share price. I hope you might have understood. Is that clear, James? It means what I'm trying to say, if there is any unnecessary, if the company prefers to issue excess ESOPs, it will directly affect the earning per share of the company. If the earning per share of the company is affected, the existing shareholder might go with a disinvestment decision, which will cause a significant effect on the market share price. So that's why, as a result, it has been suggested that the company should recognize the cost of share option to their shareholders by making some form of charge for options in the statement of profit and loss. It means that it is always preferred to charge for the share option in the statement of P&L account. Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. Okay, yeah. Any other query?
So can you also explain chapter 2, test your understanding level?
Chapter 2, test for understanding. Is it possible to give me the page number?
So page 47.
Which of the following statement is not true? I hope this one, right? Yeah. So the return on capital employed method of investment appraisal takes account of length of the project and focus on an early payback period can enhance the liquidity. And investment risk is increased if the payback period is longer and short-term forecasts are likely to be more reliable. Now here we are asked to give the answer. What is the false state? Now first we'll discuss step by step. Return on capital employed. Return on capital employed method of investment appraisal takes account of length of the project. Now what does it mean? Does it take the total life of the project only a specific period? It will take total life of the project, right? And focus on an early payback. Focus on early payback period can enhance the liquidity. Suppose if your project can receive your can pay back your investment in less period of time, definitely the company liquidity position will be increased. And investment risk is increased if the payback period is longer. And investment period is nothing but if a project is giving, let us assume that if the project payback period is 5 years or if the project payback period is 10 years. Now, definitely, it means that suppose two projects are there. The project one is giving a payback period of 3 years, and the project two is giving a payback period of 5 years. Now, when it comes to investment risk, so in which case investment risk will be more, which gives a less payback period or which gives a longer payback? Investment risk in the sense, again, you need to identify a project and you should be sure whether you will be getting your returns or not. So in which case investment risk will be more? Payback with less or payback with more?
Or
Payback with more. Okay, so you already think that payback will be with more. Suppose if a project payback period is 8 years, so you think its investment risk is more. Others, what do you think? This is a very interesting question. Now we can go with 1 or 2 minute discussion also. Very, very interesting. What do you think? Will the payback investment risk is more if the payback period is long?
yes, sir.
Why? Can I know the reason why?
Because the default of payment is there's a chance of default of payment if it is longer.
Okay. Future is uncertain. Okay, so risk associated increases. See, now let me explain this. Suppose I started a project and my investment was recovered in 2 years only. Then after recovering the investments, again I need to search for a project which gives a better return. Now, don't you think it is riskier? Suppose if the project is 5 years, let us assume that if the project is 5 years, so don't you think I can what is this investment risk will be minimized because no need to go for an investment in 2 years. I can expect this because this project is giving a return for a period of 5. It means my investment will be recovered in a 5 years period. I hope you might have understood my point. So 3 to less than 3 is accepted. Yeah, obviously, generally the payback period is accepted. So the project which is having less payback period, so that generally accepted. I agree with that. But I'm completely speaking from the investment perspective. From the payback period of point of view, yes, that is true. If the payback period is less, always it is preferred. But the question is, what if the payback period is long, especially relating to the investment rate? Think, because most of the students generally they try to submit a mistake year only. Sorry, James, what do you think? And Srivardhani, I hope you gave the answer. You mean that the investment risk will be more if the payback period is long. Yeah. Now generally they clearly mention about the investment risk. It is not the finance risk or any other risk. Investment means if you are unable to find an appropriate investment, then definitely it is considered as an investment risk. Suppose if the project is long, the project period is long, normally the investment risk can be minimized. The chances are there that the project investment risk can be minimized. Okay. I hope you understood. Suppose if you are recovering your initial investment in 2 years, then again, whatever amount which you invested, again you need to search for a project which gives return. So it is considered as an investment. Let me know whether you understood my point.
Yes, sir, understood. So that means the answer.
So, yes. So what is its answer actually?
Sir, it's A.
A.
Yes, sir.
Return on capital employed method of investment approach takes into account of length of the project. See, length of the project, see what it says is, how we will calculate the ROC, average profit divided by average investment. Now, how we will get the average profit? We will take the total profit divided by number of years. Number of years in the sense, what is the life of the project? So the life of the project is 5 years or 6 years or 7 years or 8 years. So definitely it considers the length of project. So here the option should be option C, not the option C. Length, suppose in case of payback, payback won't consider the length. Okay, payback won't consider the length because if you are receiving the amount in 2 years, then up to 2 years only you will be considered. Remaining third, fourth, fifth, sixth, we will be ignoring it. But that is not the case in case of ROC. Because in ROC, in order to get the average profit, you need to divide the total profit divided by the number of years. So the statement says that return on capital employed method of investment appraisal takes account, yes, definitely takes the length of the project. Because they are asking us to identify the false statement, not the true statement. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir.
And as per the request, fourth chapter, test your understanding, 10th book. Okay. Can you please let me know the page number? 121. Is it your question? What is your doubt?
Sir, fourth chapter, not second chapter. Sorry, not third chapter. Fourth chapter, test your understanding, 10th question.
This one, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your question thing is why we are taking tax here, right? So
Yes.
let me see the question first. All cash inflows are subject to corporation tax. Okay. So subject to a corporate tax of 30% payable. This tax is payable when the cash is received. It means if nothing would have mentioned that, we would have assumed it as an arrears, right? But they clearly highlighted that it is payable when the cash is received. So that is the reason we are considering for that particular. Normally, if nothing would have mentioned, we would have considered the tax in arrears. But here clearly they mention it is payable when the cash is received. So whenever you are expecting a cash flow, a cash inflow in that particular year itself, you are assuming that the tax is paid. It is a kind of advance tax in simple. Is that clear?
So, sir, we predict the cash flows and take the taxation on that value.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other query? And one more thing I want to know from your college internal faculty, how many chapters are already done or not yet started? Yeah. Any session from internal faculty on financial management? Okay. Any other query? Yeah. You have only 5 years. Okay. So we'll meet in the next session. So we'll be continuing with the financing of receivables. Okay. So that's it for today. Have a good day. Bye.